Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Kinderhook, New York, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And welcome. Me and Justin did an all-nighter last night. We drove. We just got back at 4 a.m. And Bobby Marchand's out of town.
And you're in her house.
We're camping at her house.
All right.
Just had to break the window down and climb through the window. Even though she left the front door open, we wanted to go in a little bit more exciting than that.
Okay.
By the way, if you're not on our mailing list, a lot of you have joined our mailing list. Want to thank you. You got to go to wisdomofthesages.com, and then you can sign up for our mailing list, and you get our Sage page that Kaustubha's working on. It's going to announce who's coming, what we're doing, who's our monthly, our weekly interview. It's going to have highlight notes, and we didn't really want to share this, but we've picked a winner because the Sage page is intimately connected with Arranged Marriage Tuesday. So
Is it? I had no idea.
You didn't know that? Yes. So today,
No, I didn't know.
One of you lucky Zoomers is going to marry Bhakti Justin. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Oh, we have to announce that privately? Okay, we're going to announce it privately, but there will be an arranged marriage after the show. So congratulations. All right.
I think I may try to put out, normally we want to put out on Mondays, but I might try to put out the first Sage page today. Let's see if I can pull
do
it
it.
off.
And we got a special guest this weekend, Tukaram Prabhu, our good friend.
Tukes
is coming. He's an incredible wealth of Vedic knowledge. He runs the community in Laguna Beach and Long Beach, has a farm, runs a little farm there, has a vegan restaurant. I love to go there. I feel part of that community as well. There's tons of others out there, the Californians that listen to the show. We just did our Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Long Beach.
Good people.
Great people. And so by the way, so if you're not part of our mailing list, get on it right now. Just go while you're here, even if you're on Zoom, just go on there, open up another window and sign up for our mailing list, wisdomofthesages.com.
Sage page. Yeah, right.
Sign up for that Sage page. And also follow us on Instagram, which is, I don't know, wisdom_of_the_. Is that it?
Yeah,
Sages. You can figure it out. All right.
How you doing this morning, Rogue? Are you with the rejection?
I didn't sleep.
And all
I'm feeling
that?
good. I'm feeling good.
I mean, dealing with the rejection and that.
Oh, I had some realization.
Okay. Have you been working that
I had
out?
some deep. We call them the Brahma Complex because in Sweet Baby Krishna, we're reading about Lord Brahma, and I'm going through the same thing Lord Brahma went to. Yeah. Lord Brahma thought he was so damn important.
Okay.
And the Brahma, some people call it the Indra Complex or the Brahma Complex. It's when these mantras spontaneously flow out of your mouth. Are you ready for these mantras?
All right.
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
Who do you think you are? Don't you know who I am? When those mantras flow out of your mouth, you know you're in Big Maya. You're not in Chota Maya. You are in Mahamaya.
Okay.
And that's what was going through my mouth when I was rejected. I had to make my I was rejected.
By the
I was a
Madhava's
fan.
rock
I
band.
was a fanboy. If you want to know the God honest truth, I was
Were,
a
are you?
fanboy
Well, this is my question.
of Madhava's rock band.
I will know that you've come through this and come out the other end when your love and affection for the Madhava's rock band will remain the same, even though you've been rejected by them.
Yeah, I have this sick codependent relationship where they walk all over me, and I still love them.
No, that's the purity of your love.
I always play it for my Sweet Baby Krishna song. If you haven't listened to it, Mary, can you post that on the YouTube on the board, please? But basically, that's our intro song to Sweet Baby Krishna. And after I shared how mad I was at them, and then when I saw their video, I was like, I love them. I just love them.
You can reject me. You can trample me under your feet.
Yes.
My love for you will remain the same.
And me and Madhumati acted out. We lip synced it together online, and then Bhakti Justin's the dancer in the middle.
Okay.
Works out quite good.
It sounds like you're working it out pretty well.
I'm working through it. You know,
Still stings a little.
What do you think about those mantras? Aren't they powerful?
I think that's really important. Those are some like
Who do
super
you think you
red
are,
flags.
and don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
Because those tend. How dare you
Treat me that
it's
way.
from a deep-rooted entitlement in this world. And yeah. So anyway, Krishna is always refining us. Krishna wants to make us pure. So Krishna's waiting for us. He's waiting for us to get our big fat ego out of the way so he can just embrace us. So he can dance, just like in the Rasa dance, he's dancing with all the gopis. He'll dance with you. He's just waiting for us to get our big ego out of the way. And then he's ready to dance. He's eager.
This is really important because we're talking about, we're reading right now. We began yesterday, right? The chapter about the kingdom of God, or in other words, what the spiritual world is like. And really, we understand the spiritual world and the material world in contrast with one another. Yeah. And I think this Brahma complex is like kind of central to that, right? That you're mentioning, right? But maybe you can describe just super briefly, like why Brahma for people that aren't in your Sweet Baby Krishna.
Well, first of all, Brahma killed.
I said super briefly, but
we're going to take it back a chapter to Aghasura. Okay. First of all, there's this mystic who turned into a massive python, and then Brahma, who was flying on a swan, not an ordinary swan, a massive, beautiful crowned swan. Brahma saw little Krishna, this little kid, go in the mouth of a serpent with all his friends, and then he killed the serpent. And he was like, what? What just happened? I got to check out what's going on. And so all the cowherd boys immediately started coming around Krishna, and they could not take their eyes off this young boy. They were just so charmed. You know, if you've ever seen someone who's very beautiful and you almost have to like stop in your tracks, that's what Krishna is. He's so beautiful. He's so charming. And everything he does, whether he's pouting or whether he's smiling, whether he's making you laugh, whether he's angry, every emotion that comes out of Krishna's face is so captivating that you just want to keep looking at him.
Well, that's why his name is Krishna.
All attractive.
It means all attractive,
right?
Just no matter what he's doing.
So here's a bunch of cowherd boys, and they're all Krishna's right in the center, and they're all just like fawning over him and in love with him, and you know, Brahma's no slouch. Brahma is the creator of the entire universe. Everything that we create is like a second-hand, third-hand version of what Brahma does. Brahma creates mango trees and redwood trees and banyan trees and oak trees. He creates the planetary systems. He creates mangoes that grow on the mango trees. So everything is coming from Brahma. And when he's flying over his creation on this big majestic swan, and he's quite a majestic person himself, he's got 4 heads. He's dressed in like very regally.
Everybody respects him.
Everybody, all the demigods look at him as God himself. And he's called, what is he called? He's called Adidev, the original person. Huh?
The original God.
The original God. So sure enough, when they see Brahma, the cowherd boys are not noticed. Everybody notices Brahma, and the cowherd boys couldn't care less.
No one looking.
So Brahma's confused. He's like, well, maybe they didn't notice me. I'm gonna have to zoom down a little lower. He takes that plane, the flying goose, the flying swan in a little lower. Still, the cowherd boys, they're not even captivated. Not one bit did they take their eyes off Krishna. And finally, he's like, what is up with these kids? First of all, are they disrespectful? Oh, they're attracted to this kid. I'm gonna punk this kid. And Brahma was trying to punk little Krishna.
You don't punk Krishna.
Don't punk Krishna. He's the original punkster. He punks you. And so when what happened was, while they were eating this picnic, the little calves wandered away, and all the cowherd boys started getting an anxiety. So what happened was, Krishna said, hey, just continue eating your lunch. I'll get your calves. And Krishna left and went to get the calves. And while he was gone, Brahma came and stole the boys. He stole the cowherd boys.
So first he took the calves. Then he took the boys.
He took them both.
Yeah.
Left Krishna alone. Thought Krishna was going to sit there and pout. You know what Krishna did?
Out, right?
Instead of, see, the cowherd boys, the calves are all liberated souls. But Krishna made identical clones out of his body, right down to what they were carrying. Just like if you could clone Kaustubha and Mara, they'd have the same like mic, same headphones, same Simon's Catering shirt. They look identical, but they're not. And they're not jivas in bodies. They are actually fully Krishna. And so what happened was, when the kids went to their respective homes and the calves went to their respective cows, it was almost like, we use this analogy, like, imagine the divine couple there, or Ariana and David. Imagine those two, they're sitting there, but imagine we kidnap Ariana. She's no longer Ariana. We clone her and make her 100% Vishnu. Krishna kidnaps her. And so now she's actually Vishnu disguised as Ariana. So when she comes home to see David, David's like, there's something about you tonight that I can't describe. It's so beautiful. I can't take my eyes off you. It's
Normally, I can't take my eyes off you, but especially today.
Especially today. I can't take my eyes off you, but then I get a little bored and then I watch TV or whatever. But today, I can't. And that's what was happening.
And not only that, Raghu, even Ariana's cat.
The cat is like, who is this person?
No. I was going to say, like, Ariana's cat was taken and kidnapped, but then you also reproduced as the cat. And you'd be like, I've always liked this cat, but I can't stop petting the cat today.
Yeah.
And I'm just so attracted to it.
The cows were like madly licking their calves. And even Balaram was watching this. He's like, what is going on? I can't understand. This must be some type of magic of Krishna, because Krishna is the ultimate magician. And everybody was just like so full. And sure enough, that was Krishna's trick to Brahma. And Brahma at that point realized, oh, I get it. I stole the calves and the cowherd boys, but they're still here. This is Krishna. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I thought I was so important. And we get this in this world again and again, where due to some arrogance, like happened to me, the Brahma Complex, I thought I was so damn important. And I reached out to Madhava's rock band, and I sent them a WhatsApp message. I was like, they're going to be so psyched. I'm pretty famous. I was in a band. I've toured around. I've got 40,000 followers on Instagram. I'm a reasonably cool guy.
I was on Joe Rogan.
Give me that. I was on Joe Rogan. They're like, we have never heard of Joe Rogan. I was like, come on. When I got that rejection text message, I was doing. It came right out. Don't they know who I am? How dare they? Who do they think they are? I could have helped their career. They humbled me like Brahma, and Brahma did. You know what? So they're right. We get bitter or we get better. And so I got a little bitter, and now I'm trying to get better. And Brahma got better. He got bitter, and then he got better. Brahma bowed down. He bowed all four heads down on the ground, and he said, "Hey, please forgive me, Krishna." Krishna looked at him. He said, "Who are you?" That is like the biggest diss ever. Who are you? I'm Brahma. I'm like the Lord of the universe. I'm the original being. He goes, wait a second. Which Brahma are you?
There's so many.
There's so many Brahmas.
Every universe has one. And there's so many universes.
He was clueless that there's billions of universes, and all these Brahmas came out of nowhere, riding various swans. Some of the swans had two heads.
Did they?
Some of the swans had multiple heads. Some of the Brahmas had 5 heads, not 4. And some had 7, not 4. Some had 1,000 heads. And then he started to realize, I'm so insignificant compared to the Madhavas.
The Madhava's rock band. Yeah. So it sounds like you're dealing really well with it.
I'm doing well. You know how you can tell you're doing well?
I mean, the fact that you
When
didn't
you
sleep
love
last
them. When
night
you
though, does
love them.
concern me.
What's
You know,
that?
The fact that you didn't sleep last night does concern me.
Oh, it wasn't because of the Madhavas.
Okay,
rock
you
band.
sure?
I didn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I just kept driving.
Okay. All right.
I pulled over. We took a little nap on the side of the road when I was getting snoozy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then you're doing good. I think they helped you in your spiritual life. Maybe now that you learned the lesson, they'll accept.
Krishna will dance with me.
No, I was gonna say maybe the
I'm
Madhava
waiting.
rock band will accept. What if you write back and say, you know what, the way that you dealt with me, I'm so appreciative. It helped me so much in my spiritual life, and now I've understood how insignificant I am. And now, could you come on to the show?
Who is this? What if they write back? Who is this? Did you write us yet?
And then see if the Brahma Complex comes back up in you again, or if you've gotten past it.
I don't know. I think my ego's gone. I'm ready to dance with Krishna.
All right.
Let's do it. Did you just give me the no way, Jose?
Me? No,
Head
not
shake?
at all.
No, Mara. Mara
Oh,
was just
Mara.
like, oh, he's up to his nonsense again. Well, last time he went to Nepal, he thought he was enlightened too.
All right.
All right, let's get in the Bhagavatam, sir.
All right. It's all been today. It actually all has been Bhagavatam.
It's all Bhagavatam.
All right.
Rayanam namaskritya naram shaiva narotamam vedim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavate naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuran Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from chapter 15 of Canto 3, the description of the kingdom of God. Hey, we want to do a quick announcement.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday, we are having a picnic. It's a free picnic. You can join us in Central Park. And guess who's coming? Kaustubha and Mara. Not just me, Kaustubha and Mara. Mara said she couldn't come, and now she's coming. I had to twist her arm a little bit.
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to try to drag my kids down. It's going to be good. And if you're interested in going, though, we're just because, you never know if there's a rain thing. We're going to might have to move it to the Bhakti Center, or if we have to cancel something for some reason, or if we need a heads up. You just write Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com, put picnic in the subject line, and leave us your name and your phone number. And then we'll text everybody, make a group
And we'll give you the
text.
exact location in Central Park where it'll be. And then if we have to change the location, then we'll text you and let you know, that kind of thing.
And Ariana and David Charles Wilson are going to organize. Maybe we'll do some potluck. People can bring something if they want. If people like to do stuff like that. And if you don't like to do it, we'll just make it whatever. We'll make it
Everybody
a big
can just show
whatever.
It's casual. This whole thing is going to be.
Very casual. Do some kirtan. Maybe play some soccer.
It's
Pin
just
the
a chance
tail,
for everyone to get
lawn
together.
darts, perhaps with the kids.
Horseshoes.
Horseshoes. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So we are in Canto 3. We are in chapter 15. And yesterday we began to hear the description of what Vaikuṇṭha is like, what the spiritual world is like, right? And it's all in the context of who's this, tell us more about Lord Varaha, Lord Vishnu appearing in the form of this boar. Well, he fought this demon named Hiranyaksha. Well, how was Hiranyaksha born? We heard about that in the previous chapter. And now, but who were they in their previous birth? We're hearing about that in this chapter. And this is all tied in with the 4 Kumaras, the 4 little boy sages, right? They're in the bodies of little boys, like really little boys. But they're like old and wise,
Yeah.
right? They've never grown up.
Do you remember what verse we're on? Mary?
I'm gonna get there. Don't worry. I'm gonna help you with that. So we're reading about how they kind of had the freedom to wander wherever they want, and they wandered to the gates of Vaikuṇṭha, to the gates of the spiritual world. And this becomes really significant because it helps us understand our own world, right? Like we were discussing yesterday, how it's said that this world is the world that we're in is kind of like a reflection of the spiritual world, but it's upside down, right?
Well, yeah, went to the banyan tree analogy.
We went to the banyan tree analogy in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. That was yesterday's show. So it is actually really interesting to hear. And you know, like just as you were saying, this you're calling it the Brahma Complex. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Did you make that up yourself?
Well, someone called it the Indra Complex, and I changed it to the Brahma Complex, but it's sort of the same thing.
Sort of the same thing, yeah. That
Psychological malady.
Okay, yeah, because like you know, Indra Complex, you know, he's like the most successful materialist in the universe.
Yeah,
and then
good.
we act, and but even it's affecting him. And then Brahma, you could say he's the most intelligent person in the universe. It's affecting him.
Sure.
That ego, that separate ego, right?
You know, another thing that jumps out at me in this chapter is we start to learn that Hiranyaksha, who was fighting Lord Boar, he has this interesting backstory where he was one of the gatekeepers of Vaikuṇṭha.
Right.
So here is in face value, he's this demon. He's the enemy of Lord Vishnu. But if you get to know this demon a little better, he's got a history. And his history was he was a liberated soul in Vaikuṇṭha who made a little mistake, offended one of the Kumars, and got cursed to take birth for 3 births as demons. And sort of as we deal with people, you know, part of our Vishnu goggles that we wear around the world, the way we're supposed to be seeing the world, the way we're supposed to be seeing not as friends and enemies, we say, well, it's very easy to see people that like us as my friends, but people who don't like us are people who are stupid, doing jerky things, acting in a jerky way. We were saying last week or a few days ago that a lot of times, due to our vision and my own either unhappiness with what I am or my own spiritual shortcomings, I'm really concentrating on people's shortcomings, people's bad qualities. And because of that, it gives me some sense of worth by finding your shortcomings. And we have to get rid of those goggles, and we have to see people for what they actually are, which is a pure spirit soul. So the argument comes up, well, there's people who are doing some real stupid things out there. And very often, they have a backstory. And when you learn to understand people's backstory, either in their childhood or maybe something happened, maybe if someone's just walking around grumpy today, maybe they had something tragic happen to them. Maybe they're going through some incredible trauma right now. Or maybe they had someone had a tragic childhood and they're doing something tragic as an adult, or in a last life, they've done something tragic. So when you start to really study people's behavior and their backstory, it loosens up my impulse to want to lash out at somebody. It makes us a little bit more forgiving, a little bit more tolerant, a little bit more understanding, which we are asked to do, which we are asked to be as Vaishnavas: compassionate, tolerant, and loving.
I love what you're saying, and it's by embodying those qualities that we can actually transform the people around us, right? In the most positive. It's like if you battle directly against them, basically you enter into a battle that never ends, you know.
Right.
But we gotta try to lift each other up by kind of embodying these qualities. You know what you're saying reminds me of, Raghunath?
What?
You may be out of touch with this. It just happened this weekend, but this weekend, you know, there's this big soccer match, right?
I'm a little out of touch.
You were out of touch. Okay, so like, it was I'm
World
pretty
Cup
out
or
of touch with
something?
myself. Like I don't know anything about it, but like everyone else in the world, Americans were not so into it, right? As most countries are. But it was like the European. I think like they do the World Cup every 4 years, and then they have like this European.
Did Italy win?
Italy won, yeah.
Okay.
So Italy beat England, and like England hasn't won it in like 50 years or something like that. So they were like really, eager to win it.
Right.
And they were hosting it also. It was in London, right?
Yeah.
And so they came out. England scored the first goal like in the first couple minutes, and everyone was just like, they went into ecstasy, right? They were literally dancing in the streets. The whole stadium of like, I don't know, like 80,000 people or something. They're just going crazy. They're in bliss. They're so happy. And then later on in the game, Italy tied it up.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so now like that whole, millions of people, all over England are now like in anxiety and stress. They're under stress,
Yeah.
And then it was like a tie at the end of the game, and then they have the shoot off.
That's what you do. You have a shoot off to see who wins.
They have a shoot off, and England lost that shoot off.
Ooh.
So they lost, and they were that close. They're so close after half a century.
Wow.
Right. They just missed it. Now this was the response. This is part of the response. Is that first of all, the players on England that missed, the way the shoot off works is like everybody on the team just like shoots, like has a chance to shoot at the goalie.
Right.
And the three guys on England that missed their shot were all black. And there was like a whole wave of like racist comments on like on the internet. Really just horrible stuff, right? And then beyond that, what happened inside the stadium was like as Italian people, like the supporters of the Italian, because everyone wears their shirt, you can tell who's who and something, right? As they were exiting the stadium, like there were like just gangs of British people that were just like beating them down. And there's videos of this. It's really terrible, and there's, you can see them and they're screaming at them.
What the hell's going on in the sport?
Yeah, they're screaming.
That's why I like hockey.
All the fighting's going on in the ice.
They just fight it out on the ice. They leave us out of it.
But this is my point.
What's your point? Where are we going with this story?
Yeah, no, this is my point. Is like if you see the films of these guys that are just beating up totally innocent people, right? Their crime is like they like the other team, right? Yeah. And they're screaming at them with such rage and such anger. And it's like five guys like just kicking a guy on the ground for no reason at all. But they're just wrapped up in this. Oh, I'm sorry?
I wouldn't wear the Italian shirt to England. These guys are a bunch of hooligans.
It's so in any case, but my point is you see that hatred. You see that and you could look at that person and say, who is this evil person? Right? It's like, I hate them. You understand?
Yeah.
I'm tying this back into what you're saying. In other words, what we're seeing there is almost like a child, a very, like an immature person who's acting so irrationally, but like convinced that what they're doing is noble in some way.
Sure.
And we can like hate them for it, but really, they're going to be the response? They're just going to amp it up still all the more. Somehow, we have to root that. People will call it toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah.
Which I get, because there weren't too many. I didn't see any women out there like beating people up as they're coming out of that stadium, right?
By the way, Vivi writes on the board: violence against women increases almost 40% when England loses football.
I saw that, like domestic violence.
It's crazy,
right? It's such a deep level of ignorance,
right?
But the way that we transform that is really, and I saw an interesting thing posted. Let me pull it up. Actually, it said, here it is. I got it. It said, this was posted by someone named Kay Montano. I don't know if that's a famous person or not, but it said, men, we need to learn how to be vulnerable, how to be strong enough to be weak, how to feel discomfort and pain without lashing out, how to talk about our illnesses and insecurities, how to take defeat without giving anger, how to deal with emotions away from alcohol and football, how to look inward. We need to learn how to lose. And, really what that's about, that, on the spiritual level, it means understanding who I am, right? That my happiness and my stature is not in any way tied to my body, what to speak of my nation or my football team.
Right.
Right. I am made of the energy of God, and everything is fine. And it's that kind of, again, it's that spiritual knowledge. And then I recognize that the same energy that I'm made of is in every player on the Italian team, every player on the British team, every fan, in England, every fan in Italy, every living being. And learning how to respond, and to be able to look in the face of that deep, violent ignorance, and understand that even within that soul, right, it's just it's a pure soul with a very confused mind,
Sure.
right? But it's not that we don't stand up against it, speak against it, but it's coming from a place of love and respect, rather than a place of rather than drawing out the darkness that's within ourselves and finding a suitable target to inflame our own ignorance as well.
Sure.
Right.
People want to be
I just thought
loved, and sometimes people will even do violence to find a community that will love them. You know what I mean? You ever get caught up when we were younger in like group violence? I did. It was very easy to be violent with a group of people that were violent. If I may share something horrible about my past, because it's one of these things. You're with a community. You want to be accepted by people. Do all crazy things to get embraced by a community.
Right.
And even that community might be incredibly degraded.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what they're doing. It's like a community. Everyone else is doing it. And I guess I'll want to do it because I want them to like me. We just want to be liked. But the repository for that love is based in like now the mode of ignorance instead of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. What do you think about that?
I think, yeah, or even you could say it more like this, like it's really out of call for love, right?
I beat you up in a call for love, Kaustubha.
No,
but that's what it is. It's just ignorance. And therefore, how do you deal with that? You got to figure out how to give them the real medicine of love.
Right.
You got to show them what real love is. We're in a process of refining love. That's what I think. We're in the process of refining love.
I like that, Raghu.
Okay.
Like, yes. So that's the nature of the material world, right? Is like we are all in our ignorance and in our childish, you could say, immature way of searching for love. We're competing with one another, lashing out with one another, conflicting with one another in so many varieties of ways, unlimited varieties of ways, right? Now we're reading about the spiritual realm, which this realm is a reflection of, but it's a warped reflection. It's upside down, right? Yeah. So even our calls for love, in ignorance, manifest in all kind of ugly, horrible ways. But here we're hearing the description of Vaikuṇṭha, and let's just dip back a little bit. We hit a few verses, but I just wanted to kind of, these verses, they're describing the spiritual realm, like you might hear a description of heaven or something like that, right? And it's like describing the beauty of that place, and we're hearing about that. We're hearing about the trees, and we're hearing about the flowers, and we're hearing about which sound like, okay, that's pleasant, nice descriptions, right?
Yeah.
But we're also hearing about certain principles. Certain principles are kind of being mentioned in these verses that I think are worth highlighting and bringing out. Okay?
She gets.
So we heard, like in text 14 yesterday, chapter 15, text 14, canto 3. In the Vaikuṇṭha planets, all the residents are similar in form to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They look like Lord Vishnu in a sense, right? Four-handed, and so they all engage. And then here's the principle: they all engage in devotional service to the Lord without desires for sense gratification. Right? It says "Ye nimitta." And I think in the Sanskrit there's something going on here, right? Ye, it's like animita nimitena. So it means like they're doing this service, and it's causeless. There's no material reason for it. It's pure. It's purely out of love. They're serving. It's not that everyone has a separate agenda there. Like, I want my senses satisfied. I want Italy to win. I want England to win. I'm going to feel better when that happens. I'm going to feel better when Italy, and then you have a conflict, but everyone's focused on the same center. We all love Lord Vishnu. We all want to serve Lord Vishnu. And then it's just like, it creates this perfect network, So Prabhupada writes, although every service has a particular result, the devotees never aspire for the fulfillment of their own desires. Their desires are fulfilled by rendering transcendental loving service. And that's the key, that my happiness doesn't come from satisfying my senses. My real happiness comes from living my dharma, which means connecting with that divine root of all existence through loving service. And when one's engaged in that loving service, then that bliss just rises in one. The happiness just rises in one because it's our natural position, right?
Mm.
So that's a principle of the spiritual world, right? You seem to have lost all interest. I think you've gotten very caught up in the message board.
They're going off the charts today. You know what? I'm just getting hit by the powerful sleepy stick right now.
Okay.
Not sleepy. It's like hit me right in the center of the head. I went from like hyped up. I was like, it's pulling me down.
Okay, I need you, Raghu.
All right, let's start. What verse are we on?
Well, no, I'm taking you through. Just hang on. Just go with me. Just trust in me, Raghunath. Trust me, okay? I'm with you. Now in 15, there's another principle. Let's read text 15. In text 15, you want to read it?
In the Vaikuṇṭha planets, in the Vaikuṇṭha planets is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is the original person, and who can be understood through the Vedic literature. He is full of the uncontaminated mode of goodness, which is different than the regular mode of goodness. The uncontaminated mode.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is, right?
I know, yeah.
Sudasattva, yeah.
With no place for passion or ignorance. He contributes religious progress for the devotees.
Yeah, remember we read that yesterday?
Yeah.
So here it's mentioned that he is full of the uncontaminated mode. There's no place for passion and ignorance. It's particularly the mode of passion that has us all competing with one another, that creates kuntha rather than Vaikuṇṭha, right? That creates an atmosphere, the reflected atmosphere in this spiritual world, where everyone's being affected by this mode of passion. Everyone's feeling incomplete. The mode of passion makes us feel incomplete. I need something that I don't have.
Yeah, I gotta go get it.
I gotta go get it, but you've got it. Well, I need to get it from you.
They got it. I've got to get it.
Yeah.
I should get the whole bundle. I'm just gonna get the bundle.
What are you talking about?
Because now they don't sell things. They've cleverly say, well, if you like this, people who buy this usually like this, and you're like, oh, they like that too. I should bundle it.
The bundle. Gotcha. So here we're reading. It says Sattvam Vistabhya Virajam Svanam no Mridayan Vrishaha. It's saying that there's no lower modes there. Sattvam Vistabhya, accepting the mode of goodness, which is Virajam, uncontaminated. Right? And that everyone's operating that way. Everybody's operating without the influence of the mode of passion, or to speak of the darker mode of ignorance. Right? That whole thing, that we witnessed in London with that football game, that was a big manifestation of passion, and then really going deep into the mode of darkness, the destructive mode. The destructive mode. Here it's saying that there's no influence of that, and it's saying that he contributes to. Remember, we read this yesterday. And we're trying. What does that mean? He contributes. It's saying Vishnu contributes to the religious progress of the devotees. The way that I understand it, because when we say the religious progress, I think that's like like
or evolution,
artha, kama, moksha. It's like through acting in a dharmic way, one receives happiness. One receives the good things in this world. But here it's saying that's the material dharma, right? Like in other words, let me be a responsible person, let me be charitable, and then let me receive material benefits from that. But here, because there is no mode of passion, nobody wants anything separate. He's granting them increasing happiness through dharma, meaning the higher dharma of I am a servant. I serve God by nature.
There's that beautiful analogy of, if you were to throw many pebbles in a very placid pond, the ripples of each pebble will make waves in the water. But if you were to throw,
and they'll conflict with one another, right? If you throw them all at the same time,
all the ripples will be on top of each other. But if you're hitting the same exact spot with like 10 pebbles, the ripples will always never touch. They'll always just sort of
gracefully
ripple away gracefully. So when we keep our focus on the center of Lord Vishnu without our selfish interest, then there's peace and harmony. When we each have our own selfish agenda then I want what Mara wants. And Mara wants what I want. And we're all fighting for the resources of this world. And it becomes war. We just become like warmongers, trying to find our own, fulfill our personal agenda, our family's personal agenda, our nation's personal agenda. And it expands on and on like that.
Exactly. And therefore, like, I'm picking on another theme here too. It's like this. These principles that we're discussing right now, if you can bring them, these are the principles of the spiritual world. Everything's working around the center. Nobody's got a personal agenda. Everybody has that realization that my happiness is not tied to my getting the resources rather than someone else. My happiness is internal. It's within. It's spiritual. It's untouchable. And therefore, we're all working with the one same agenda. We're all connected to that root. The more that we bring that principle, that principle of the spiritual world into the material world, the more we transform the material world into the spiritual world, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's, yeah. Well, I was going to say, but that's the activism of the Bhakti-yogi, is to bring the principles of the spiritual world into the material world, manifest them in my own character first, and then in my community around me. Right?
You know, I think that you and I have seen this working on projects that, especially when you're in an ashram. Who's like in the ashram? It's not like your high school buddies. You're with like a ragtag group of people that sometimes you can't even relate to sometimes.
Right.
Like, who is this guy? How did I get stuck with this guy? And in any other situation in the material world, you might not even get along with them.
Right.
But because you really are focused on serving Guru and Krishna, you smooth things out. And you also find that, oh, I get it. Krishna's putting these people in my life for my benefit. The person that's given me that edge, that's getting under my skin, getting under my nails, so to speak, like a bamboo under my nails. Krishna's putting that person because I need some purification, because I'm finding the bad in people instead of the good in people. And he's trying to purify me. And we've worked some magic, just like living in ashrams and being very focused and overlooking people's shortcomings, or just overlooking the fact that they may not have a shortcoming. I just don't jive with them, but we're going to just do it anyway. And it's very, very powerful.
Love it, Ro. Love it. All right, so
Name
we
center.
read up to
Name
text
center.
19. Why don't we start now with text 20?
Here we go.
Which is a very interesting verse too. Very interesting verse.
The inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭha travel in their airplane made of
Vimanas.
lapis lazuli. Love that word.
What exactly is lapis lazuli?
I think it's a blue stone, isn't it, Mara?
Mara?
Ariana says yes.
Yeah, that's right. It's a blue stone.
Ariana wants your gig, Mara. I can tell. She's got that luck. I can do it. I know this. I know
It's all
stones.
hers.
She knows stones. Okay, it's a blue stone. And so they fly. Their airplanes are made of lapis lazuli, emerald, and gold. Although crowded by their consorts who have large hips and beautiful smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion by their mirth and beautiful charms. So they're not, even though they're surrounded by very beautiful people, they're not agitated by it.
Yeah.
They're just like living amongst beauty, but it doesn't stimulate their lower selves. They're not living in that. It's a whole realm of that. I mean, you can imagine that, right? Because there are cultures of people that act on higher principles, and there's cultures of people, like we were saying at that football game, they're acting on their lowest passions, and like, oh, you're different than me, I'm going to kick your ass. And so it's interesting. Like, that's what it's like in the different spiritual realms. There's higher planets of more civilized people, and then you leave this material world where they're only in this Shuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. I can imagine that, a community of people like that.
I can imagine that. And you think, it's hard for our materialistic mind. It's like saying, okay, this is great. You get into that spiritual realm, and then all the enjoyment comes. Oh my God, there's all these beautiful women. They're all like incredibly beautiful. So now the enjoyment comes, right? Like that I've earned, right? But like Prabhupada, he writes here, he says, in the commentary, he writes, the residents of Vaikuṇṭha have a better standard of pleasure So there's no need for sex pleasure. Like we think, oh, that's sex pleasure. And then
It's
you
the
gotta
highest
get to
pleasure.
there, right? Because like that, but it's like their enjoyment is still higher than that. The bliss that they're experiencing is like on such a level that although they're surrounded by beauty,
There's-
even in even like it, in terms of like sexuality, like the beauty of the bodies of everyone is so off the charts.
Hmm.
But nobody's thinking it's for my separate enjoyment. It's all just kind of being offered. It's all made an offering of. So their minds aren't disturbed by thinking I need to take this for me. I can be in the middle of that beauty and think I don't need to take it for myself because I'm blissful right now already.
There's that statement: the servant of the king enjoys the same opulences of the
Yeah.
king. Like, sometimes you see some big estate in the countryside, and there's like a charming little house in the beginning of of the estate by the gate, and that's where the gatekeeper lives, or the servants' quarters live. So the servant, even though it's not his place, he's not, doesn't have like vaults of gold. The servant enjoys living on that beautiful property, enjoys the stables, or enjoys the gardens. He eats the remnants of the food. Oh, today we're having this fancy food, or we're having this fancy ball, and the servant's part of it. So in the same way, what was I talking about, man? I was on a
Well, they're
good
flying
roll
around on the
here.
airplanes. They're getting
I'm flying around on the airplane anyway. Yeah. So, I was just gonna say in my own life, like I got here, I set up and I did my puja. And so it's just, when you're doing puja, you're dealing with incredibly scented, beautifully scented oils, beautiful incense,
Flowers.
beautiful flowers. And it's just like, it's bringing a sensual awareness into your life, not for my enjoyment, but to offer. And because I'm offering that, I'm also getting the benefit of, I still smell the oil on my hands. I still smell the incense burning. I still see the flowers and have the scent of the flowers. It's a sensual overload, but not from me trying to enjoy, from me just trying to serve. And this is the
So you didn't miss out,
Yeah, you don't
right?
miss out on anything.
but
You-
it's
you enjoy
except
it-
anxiety. The only thing you
Except
miss
the
out is
anxiety of trying to control everything.
yeah.
So yeah, these people in Vaikuṇṭha like this, they're enjoying the opulences of Vishnu.
And like the very same things are being mentioned here that we identify as opulences here. Like you take the cover of like a say like a rap record or something like that, like, right? And you got like,
Cover of a
there's-
rap record.
Yeah, you got like, and there's this guy sitting there with his car, right? And then he's got his woman, right? And the woman has big hips, right? It's just like, it's almost the same thing. Right? He's got his vehicle. He's got his like his material opulence, his sexuality. It's kind of like all display. And I'm going to put it all right there on the cover of the record.
Are you
And I'm
saying
gonna-
Lord Vishnu has bling?
No, well, this isn't Lord Vishnu. This is actually the residents of Vaikuṇṭha,
Okay.
right? Like,
President of Vaikuṇṭha, that bling.
yeah.
Okay.
And but like what the rap artist is trying to show you is I've got the opulences, right? They're mine. I possess them. Whereas in Vaikuṇṭha, the opulences they have are like way beyond. They're flying around on airplanes made out of lapis lazuli,
And emeralds.
and it's crowded with like beautiful, shapely women and so on. And the women are crowded by beautiful, handsome men. But none of them are thinking that I take it for myself. But the level of their spiritual bliss is so high that they're not confused by it, right? Their happiness is found serving together rather than competing with one another. All right. Next text.
Good stuff. Good. We're churning out good stuff today.
That's good. It's wonderful stuff here. Bhagavatam. It says they cannot be, it said again, let's just read again. It says, although crowded by their consorts, who have large hips and beautifully smiling faces, they cannot be stimulated to passion, right? They're still untouched by those lower modes. They're not going to become controlled. They cannot be controlled by passion, by their mirth and beautiful charms, right? It's like they can appreciate the mirth and the beautiful charms, but and it can be absolutely like charming and satisfying to be in the presence of that mirth and beautiful charms, but it's bringing them happiness that it's all being offered to Lord Vishnu. That's their happiness.
Okay, what number are we on? I spun
Well,
my.
we're at 20, so we're on 21 now.
21. The ladies in the Vaikuṇṭha planets are as beautiful as the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi herself. Such transcendentally beautiful ladies, their hands playing with lotuses and their leg bangles tinkling, are sometimes seen sweeping the marble walls, which are bedecked at intervals with golden borders, in order to receive the grace of the personality of Godhead.
They're in other words, they're incredibly opulent, but they're finding happiness in menial service.
You know, it's interesting how they describe these things. There must have been them. You know, there must have been these places around too. Like I guess the places like resemble this on Earth at that time. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you see remnants of it, right?
Yeah. The goddess of fortune.
They say, you know, there's in Bhagavatam it mentions that like the jewels had power, like they had luminance, that they could light up rooms with the jewels, right?
Yeah.
And you see like in the ruins of some of these ancient palaces and stuff, like where all the jewels were taken out of the walls, like the holes are there, right?
Horrible, huh?
Yeah.
Looters. Looters. Okay. That's that's a Sanskrit word. Loot.
I remember you mentioned that before. Yeah.
Loot. Okay.
I
The
know
goddess
that you're
of
a
fortune.
linguist.
22. Philologist. The goddess of fortune
Thank you.
Lord in their own
Correcting me.
gardens by offering tulsi leaves on the coral-paved banks of the transcendental reservoirs of water. While offering worship to the Lord, they can see on the water the reflection of their beautiful faces with raised noses. I guess it's attractive to have a raised nose. And it appears that they have become more beautiful because of the Lord's kissing their faces. So it seems like beauty and there's an objective concept of beauty, would you say? And it's coming from perhaps God himself.
It seems to be that way.
It's not subjective. And although in this world we can say, well, I like men who look like this or women who look like that, but there is a metric or a gold standard of beauty. Can you say that's coming from an ultimate source of beauty?
Well, certainly there's variety in the beauty there, right? I mean, it mentions they have the raised nose. I don't know if that means that every single beautiful person there has a raised nose or something like that, but you know, it's one person speaking, right? It's Lord Brahma speaking the vision that he has to, you know, he's sharing that. And, you know, it's described that the people in the spiritual realm, they have all different color skin, right? Like in varieties that we don't know.
Oh,
right?
Interesting. Never thought of that.
Yeah, and even the cows, you know, there's all different colored cows, and it's just like a whole. There's great variety there for sure, but I get what you're saying. Is like there's a certain standard of beauty as well that's based on the spiritual realm, and that becomes the metric there.
Okay.
All right, Raghu, why don't we? We're just about out of time. I think it's about time for any takeaways that we might have.
That was fast.
All right.
What do you got, Mira?
Let's see. You don't punk Krishna.
You don't punk Krishna.
You don't. He punks you.
He punks you. Don't try to punk Krishna. You're going to get punked harder.
We get better. We get bitter or we get better.
Oh, yeah.
We get better. Yeah.
We're in the process of refining love. Real happiness comes from living your dharma and connecting to the root of all. Keep your focus on the center, not on our own separate agenda. Bring the principles of the spiritual world into the material world. And residents of Vaikuṇṭha have bling.
There you go.
There you go. Wow, that was great. Well, picnic time this Sunday.
I think it's time for you to take a nap, Raghu.
Yeah. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. If you're going to come to the picnic, write picnic in the subject bar and send us your phone number and name. Ariana and David's going to get back
How many
to you.
people you bringing?
How many people you bringing? You're going to bring your pets, your dogs, your cats. I'm going to bring my bicycle. Do a loop around the park with the kids. Also, it's Swayamvara Saturday coming up.
Swayamvara Saturday. It's
And
not
Swayamvara is
arranged.
when you when somebody wants to get, you have the arranged marriage. That's one way of marriage. A swayamvara is when one lady wants to get married and the men have to duel over her. So, sometimes
people want a picnic live stream.
a picnic. Oh, that's interesting.
We can live stream
Let's just do the whole
lawn dart
picnic on
competition.
Zoom. Who needs to go to Central Park? Save gas.
Come on, man.
No, this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, guys. I'm glad. I tell you, I would have never done this Bhagavatam class if we didn't have the accountability of this 5 a.m. group. I want to thank all the Zoomers. Thank you so much. It's forcing me to hear the Bhagavatam every day. And then our Sweet Baby Krishna, which we're doing again tonight. If you're not part of our Patreon party, please join at patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages for Sweet Baby Krishna tonight at 8:30.
Is there anything else going on today, Mara?
Yeah, we have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today. The men meet at 11 and the women at 2 o'clock Eastern time.
You got the men meeting. You got the women's meeting. Both going on.
Get those hands in the air, people. Can't start your day without dancing.